Hi guys, it's Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to be doing a handover video on this Bessecarr E769. So it's based on the Fiat Ducato chassis. We're on the 160 multi-jet, which is the 3-litre chassis on this one. So under the bonnet, over on the left-hand side, we've got the majority of our sort of consumable items are over on this side. So we've got your washer fluid at the top, power steering fluid, engine coolant, and brake fluid just up here. We've then got your engine oil filling point and your engine oil dipstick just down here at the front. Along this sort of front member just here, we've got the air conditioning information for the vehicle just here. The paint code for this vehicle is Fiat 249, so you can see that there, and that is the white colour that runs throughout the vehicle there. Chassis plates, these two just here, is a 5-ton vehicle, so it is a tag axle on the Fiat Ducato, so it's 3 litre, so it's plenty powerful enough. You've got your air filter inside the box just down here, and you have got 2 terminals under the bonnet in order to help you to jump start the vehicle. So if you ever needed a jump start, lift the little cover up just here. You've got a positive terminal for the engine battery there, and a negative terminal just here at the front. So that is for if you ever needed to jump start the vehicle from outside. The engine battery itself sits under the floor in the cab, under this big plastic cover, hence why they give you the option of doing it under the bonnet as well. So just behind the passenger door here, we've got your diesel filling point. So you will need your ignition key in order to open that up. And before I forget, the bonnet release handle for this vehicle is just inside the passenger door here. So just behind the passenger door, we have got an external gas point just here. So that is what you would call your barbecue point, really. So as long as you've got your gas switched on in the locker just next door, you'll be able to use your barbecue point on the outside. The gas locker itself is pretty straightforward, really. All you've got is a valve on the top of the bottle just here. So you go anti-clockwise around to the left like so in order to open the gas bottle up and to turn it on. You need to make sure that you turn the gas off before you start driving. That's really important. And to be honest, that's about all you need to know. You've got 5 years on these pigtail hoses. So if I just try and find the date for you, product date, just behind this little sticker. Where's the other one? Product date 2024. So you've got till 29 to replace this pigtail hose here. Regulator looks in good condition to me. But yeah, so that is the gas locker. As I say, make sure you turn that off before you start driving. But that's about it. I'll leave that on for now. So the next thing we get to is our freshwater filling point. So to remove that, just do what I did there. Push in and round to the left to remove it, and push in and round to the right to get it to lock back up. You will need to put your key in here as well. Once you've got it to that locked point, you pop the circular key that you've got, this one just here, pop that in and twist it, take the key out, and now the cap itself spins, but it won't come out, so that's now locked. Habitation door just here. This is on a central locking system in this van, so it's a nice high spec for the year of the vehicle. Having it the side door being on the central locking as well is really nice. So you've got the bottom button just here. When I press on this here, it actually unlocks this side door as well. So the top button is to unlock the front doors, middle button locks everything up, and the bottom button unlocks this door here. Now you've got a little vent just here, which is to do with the boiler. So if you have got the boiler lit up on gas, you will feel warm air pumping out through here. You've then got a little vent just here, which I believe is probably underneath the oven area, or at least it could be an air vent for where the boiler is. But yeah, just that area there. You haven't got to do anything with that. It's just an air vent. You've got an external mains socket here. So if you've got the electric hookup cable plugged in on the other side of the van, you will be able to use that external mains socket. The reason they put the external sockets like the gas and the mains on the outside on the near side here on the English vans is because you've got your wind out awning on this near side. So you can wind the awning out and use your external points underneath. If I carry on to the the back of the van here, we've got a garage locker, which I've got open at the moment. The garage locker, not much to see inside here apart from loads of storage. You've got your awning winder just there, and a couple of lights inside here as well. Okay, have to have them switched on from the control panel. So, the back of the van, not much to show apart from the fact that you've got the ladder just here. Tow bar as well, so it's a nice little thing to have. They're not cheap to have fitted on the motorhomes. And your original factory fitted reversing camera there as well. So moving on to the off side of the van, we've got just the other side of the garage here, so you've got the other side locker. Down below here we have got your wastewater drain off point. So you've got a little handle on the right hand side of that drain, which is just what you need to twist in order to get the wastewater draining out. But that is where you would drain out your waste tank. As I said, it's a tag axle vehicle, so you've got twin rear wheels here. So it's a 6-wheel vehicle, just for that additional weight really in the back end of the van. You've got external hot and cold water point just here. All right, so you can use that. As long as you've got the water hot from the boiler inside the vehicle, you'll be able to use this on the outside. That does lock up as well. I'll just show you which key that is as well, just in case you ever wondered. So when you want to lock this external hot and cold water point up, it's this square key just here, which says West Alloy on it. And basically you pop the key in, twist it, take it out, and that is now locked. Okay, same goes for unlocking. Nice and easy. Next lockers we get to are these two just here. So these are both related to each other. The one at the top is your flush fluid for the toilet, and the one below it is the actual toilet cassette itself. So the flush fluid is basically, this is your pink fluid that goes in here. You have to make sure it's pre-mixed before you put it into there, pre-mixed with water. And this is just kind of like a fill up as and when you need it type thing. There's no real gauge for it. You just kind of fill it up when you need it. That again, any of these sort of locks that look circular like that are always going to be this circular key just here. So put the key in, twist it, and take the key out. All right, so it's the same with all of these circular locks, even these ones here on the toilet. So that's your flush fluid at the top. As I said, below that we have got the toilet cassette. So to remove the actual cassette, in order to empty it, we're going to lift up on the little yellow tab down here and pull the cassette towards us. Once you've got it to here, you can then take it all the way out and then take it to wherever you need to go to. To physically drain it out, twist this little part here open and take this cap off. All right, so that's where you would drain it out from. When you're actually draining it out, hold down this little yellow button here at the back, which is a little pressure release valve basically, and then you'll be able to drain it out much easier. The blue fluid, about a cap's worth of blue fluid, goes back inside here, and then give it a little swish around and push it all the way home again in order to completely lock it back up and reuse it again. As I said, you can lock this locker up once you've got to this point here just by popping the key in, twist it, take it out, and that is now completely locked in position. Now, these two vents just here are both to do with the fridge. So if you have got the fridge lit up on gas, you can expect to hear a little bit of a sort of gas burner sort of noise from this lower locker. That's because the gas burner is actually just here. So don't worry about that, that's completely normal. And then the little hatch just here is your electric hookup point. So if you do have access to a hookup cable, it's really handy to have that plugged in, because it just means that everything mains powered will come to life, and it also means that your battery charger will come to life and start charging the leisure battery. So you won't have to worry about any battery voltages, and you'll have access to using all of your appliances. So yeah, that's essentially what that's for there. In this locker just here, this is actually a really important little locker. So I've got this little bit of plastic out of the way just so you can see your leisure battery is just here. So you have actually got space in here for 2 leisure batteries. If you ever wanted to add another one, my recommendation would be to replace this battery as well. If you're going to replace both batteries, get 2 new ones and just get rid of this one. Even though this one's fine, you should never sort of put an older battery up against a newer battery, because they sort of drag each other down. So if you are going to put 2 batteries in, I would recommend doing both at the same time, and then selling this one really. But yeah, so the battery in there is absolutely fine at the moment. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, but I'm just sort of mentioning you have got space there for 2. You've got a fuse panel just here, which is just a standard sort of fuse panel. There should be some information inside the vehicle somewhere telling you what fuse does what, but that is your fuses. And then towards the back just there, we have got your mains trip switches. So there is a little diagram underneath each one of those telling you what they'll do. And you've also got 3 switches at the bottom, which basically isolate those 3 appliances. So that is your sort of what you might call the power supply area of the vehicle. I'm just going to wipe it. So what I'll do is I'll just jump into the cab and I will show you what we've got going on in here. So a super low mileage on this vehicle. We've got just shy of 30,000 miles. We haven't even done 30,000 yet. So it's a 2007 van, 30,000 miles, or not even just 30,000. So, you know, to be honest, this vehicle has been barely running, and the quality of the van is fantastic inside and out. The bodywork is looking amazing, and we've actually sold this vehicle before to the previous owner, and they basically part exchange it in for a different vehicle. So yeah, so we've had it coming in and out of here for a good few years now, and we've always looked after it. So yeah, we know the vehicle very well. So first thing I'll show you is on the actual windows themselves in the cab. You've got the full cab blinds. Now these are a factory fitted thing, and basically if you want to use them, you push down and then up, and that will then release the front one here. They meet together, these 2 front ones here meet together in the middle with a little magnetic strip running through the inside just here. Okay, so really clever, very easy to use. On the side windows, it's even easier than that. You've got literally just pull on it just like that, and then just nice and carefully push it all the way through to meet up with this little magnet down here. So that's the same for both these windows. Takes a few seconds and then you're completely blacked out in the front. Make sure that when you do close these back up, that you go back over these little hatches here, because you don't want it to fly open when you're driving. It's a little bit annoying. So just make sure they're completely closed up. So that's your cab blinds. As for the actual cab itself, so you've got your lock and unlock button just here, so you can lock and unlock the cab from this button here. You've got your electric windows from those 2 there, and your electric mirror adjustments is from that one. You've then got these buttons just here, so you've got an additional fan switch just there. You've got a mode button, which then allows you to change a few bits on the actual screen up there on the dash itself, and you've got your headlight adjustment switches from these ones. You've got your washers and wipers are on the right hand stalk just here as usual, and your lights are on the left hand stalk with your indicators. Let's have a look, see what else we've got. So we've got the 6-speed manual gearbox from this little one here. So you lift up on the back just here and push over to the top left hand side in order to engage reverse. You've got a new looking head unit just here, so you've got USB, auxiliary, CD, obviously radio. Not sure if it's DAB or not. It's probably not quite that new, but yeah, there you go. So all working very nicely. You have actually got, on these cabs, you have actually got space here for a double DIN unit. So again, in the future, you've got the option of fitting a nice big double DIN sized unit if you wanted to. If this one's fine for you, then that's absolutely fine. But what some people will do with the motorhomes is they'll fit like a double DIN size one there with like a sat nav built in and all that sort of stuff. So again, options for all of that sort of stuff in the future if you need it. Below that, we've got the air conditioning switch, which is this button just here. Okay, and all of your heater controls, it's all pretty self-explanatory really, just there. Below that, you can also lock and unlock the cab from these 2 buttons here, so you've got 2 options of how to do that. Hazard lights from that switch, fog lamp, and the original heated rear window switch, which now obviously won't do anything at all because it's been converted into a motorhome and there isn't a rear window anymore. So that doesn't do anything at all. So The only other thing to point out in the cab really is that you've got this little screen that comes down up here. Now basically, when you've got the ignition on and you're driving, or when the engine's running, sorry, if you select reverse, this screen here will spring to life and should show up your reversing camera. So it works really, really well. So we've been using it all the time on the site, obviously, for getting into these little tight gaps. And yeah, it works perfectly. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Now this will fold away and go back up nice and neatly like that if you don't want to use it. But yeah, there you go. So that's about it for the cab really. So what I'll do is I'll just sort of turn around and go through into the back end of the van and show you what we've got going on in here as well. So in the actual back of the van itself, the layout is, you know, this is like a sort of industry standard layout for this sort of size of vehicle really. So you've got an absolutely massive over cab bed up the top just there, which as you saw just then does literally just push away like that, so that you've got loads of headroom in there in order to get to the front. Both of these front seats swivel all the way around, hence why they've got lights in the front just here, and the fact that you can push the bed away makes a big difference there. You can turn this area here into a couple of beds, so you can make a little bed just here, or you can put it together in the middle and make a nice big double bed here in the front. And then the big sort of selling point of this vehicle really is the fact that you've got the island bed. So the island bed is probably the most desirable bed layout of the vehicles that you can get nowadays. So you can literally get all the way around both sides of the bed, so you haven't got to climb over each other in the middle of the night really. So yeah, a really, really good layout, very, very popular. It didn't stick around long when it was up for sale, to be honest. But yeah, so right, let's just do something quickly. Don't worry about what I'm doing for now. Just right, I'll explain all of that in just a minute. Okay, so what I will start with is just having a little look through the cupboards, just in case there are any little bits. Right, so we've got the solar panel. So that is your solar controller just there. So you haven't got to do anything with that. All right, the solar panel just does its thing on the roof. You just leave it alone, and this panel just literally just puts power into the leisure battery, essentially. So as I say, you haven't got to do anything with that. Leave it as it is, and it'll just be chucking power in all the time. So that's obviously a very good thing to have. It's probably the most common thing that we get asked to fit on aftermarket vehicles, so it's nice that it's already there. In this cupboard just here, this is the back of your awning light. Okay, so there is a switch on the control panel for the awning light, which is that button just there at the top. Now you can, what most people do is leave this, because there's actually a switch just here on the back of this. What most people would do would leave the switch on the back of this unit here and just use the switch on the control panel. Okay, that's what the majority of people would do, so that you don't have to go inside the cupboard every time you want to turn it on. Right, so what I'll do is I'll show you through the control panel, and then I'll just sort of go around and show you all the individual appliances as well. So the actual panel itself, this is a, I think it's a Nord Electronica unit. It's just like a, I think it's an Italian brand actually. But yeah, they just make a lot of these sort of control panels. This is like an industry standard control panel really. So to use it, it's very, very simple. You've got a main on and off switch just here, which basically when you press and hold on this, it will just turn everything off. You then got a little tick button here in the middle, which when you press on that, it will then start showing you all of your gauges, your levels for your water, your battery levels and all that sort of stuff. So we can see straight away, fresh and waste water levels. We've got 50% in the fresh tank and 0 in the waste tank. We've got 13 volts in the leisure battery, 13 volts in the vehicle battery. So both very, very good. We've got 0.8 amps of power being drawn from the leisure battery. And that's it. So that's all of the gauges. So the fact that we've got just shy of an amp being drawn from the leisure battery is because we've got some lights on and we've got some power being used. If every single light in this van was off, you can expect that ampage draw to be fairly low, next to nothing probably. So that's just the idea behind that, just to show you, you know, if you come into the van one day, you've got nothing on, but there's a massive 10 amp battery draw from the leisure battery, then there's probably an issue somewhere, something's not working properly. So, you know, that's the only reason they put that there, really. To the left of that, you've got this little switch just here. Now, you don't need to press on that, okay? This is basically a battery selector switch. When you press this button, what happens is all the power from inside the vehicle gets started to be, basically, if we're using any lights, let's just turn some lights on, right? Just to make this a better example. Let's turn some more lights on. Get some lights in there. Get these lights on. Just so I can show you a bit of a better example. If the switch for those lights were on. There you go. Right, so if I have a little look now on my little gauges, I can bring up our battery voltages. Now, we can see now we're a little bit lower on the leisure battery now because we're drawing a hell of a lot more power. So 8 amps are being drawn from the leisure battery now. Now, if I switch, if I go back onto the battery voltage one, if I press this button here on, you see the leisure battery's power goes right back up and the vehicle battery is now being drained. So what's happening is when I've turned this little button here on, all of the power inside the vehicle that we're using is now being drawn from the engine battery, which is obviously not what we want. You know, after no time at all, you know, if you got these big halogen lights on for a little while in the evening and you're using the engine battery's power, it's going to pretty quickly wear it out and you're not going to be able to start the van up in the morning. So it's not a very good idea to have this little switch on. The only reason that you would ever have this little button here on is if you're hooked up on the mains. Okay, so if you've got the hookup cable plugged into the van and you want to charge the engine battery via the electric hookup rather than the leisure battery. So let's just say you're in a field, your engine battery's gone completely flat and you can't get someone to jump start you. If you've got access to a hookup cable and you can plug the hookup cable into the side of the van, you can press this little button here and the charger will start charging the vehicle battery instead. So that's the only real reason that switch is there, really, hence why they've got a little power symbol next to the cab. So if you're hooked up on the mains and you want to charge the engine battery, switch this button here on. Otherwise, leave it off and use the leisure battery to power the lights and things in the back end of the van. So that's your 3 switches just there. On the right hand side, we've got awning light, entry light, this one just here, it's the second button down, spotlights, and an altogether on and off for the lights. So that's all the lights here on and off, spot lamps, entry light, awning light. So this is all just to do with your lights. On the left hand side, you have got a switch at the top, which is for your water pump. Now I've got the water pump switch turned on at the moment and the pump is not running. So that means that we're up to pressure and there's no leaks. If you've got the water pump switch turned on, but the water pump won't turn itself off, it means that you've either not got enough water in the tank, there's a leak somewhere, or there's some air in the system. So in that case, if you just can't get the pump to turn itself off, you know, it's just running and running and running, all you need to do in that situation is come to one of the sinks, one of the taps, draw the water through on the cold side, just make sure there's no air coming out, it's nice and clear like it is now, and then turn it to the hot side. Same again, no air coming out, it's nice and clear, and then turn it off. Okay, what you'll probably find if you can't get your pump to turn itself off, what you'll find is when you lift up the tap on either one of those sides, one of them will just start coughing loads of air out, and you know, all it means is that the system is pressurizing itself and just getting rid of any bits of air in the lines, and then you'll find that the pump will turn itself off. As we speak, the pump is working absolutely perfectly, and there's no issues whatsoever, so it's a very good thing. So on the left hand side as well, you've got this little switch just here. Now you don't need to worry about that one, all right, just ignore this one completely. And then the next 2 down here, basically what you've got, these are just isolators for the heating and the hot water. So what you'll find, I'll explain to you how to use the boiler in a minute, which is these two dials down here. But what you might find is when you try and use these, if you don't have these two switches up here turned on, then essentially you won't have any power go to these switches. So to get them to turn on, when you press on this button just here, okay, it will come up on the screen there with a temperature. Now you just need to basically click on that and then allow this to sort of come back on. It just takes a few seconds. There you go. And you're just setting a temperature from up here on the control panel. In my opinion, it's a little bit silly to have that. I would say it's pointless, but you do have to have these two switches here turned on in order to use the heating and the hot water. Just sort of mention that. That's why if ever you can't get anything to work down here, it's probably because these two aren't on. All right, but it is what it is. So that's the control panel. Very straightforward. Honestly, not much to, there's nothing difficult about that really. And it's one of those ones that you'll just get used to that in no time at all. So what should I show next? Okay, so I'll show you the sort of kitchen area. So we've got what I would call a range cooker in here. So this is what is it? Spin Flow maybe? Not sure on the brand of that one. It'll be the factory fitted one anyway. But yeah, so you've got the option on here of using the 3 burners, or if you're hooked up on the mains, you can also use this little ring here. So you've got the numbers 1 to 6 on the little left hand one here, and that is essentially just going to start heating up that ring via the electric element. All the rest of them are literally just normal gas burners, which, there you go, work just like so. It's taking a little while to come through on that one. It's just haven't been on for very long, that's why. Wonder if that... Oh, I don't know if the ignition's in the right place on that one, so I will have a little look at that in a minute. I can just about see it on the back actually. Maybe it is. Oh, I'll have a little look at that in a minute because that's not lighting up, so I'll have a little play with that and get that working. But yeah, essentially you've got the options there. You've got 3 gas burners on the top or the electric ring. You've also got the grill underneath here and the oven as well. Now you've got a little bit of extra space down here, and that little plug over there is basically the plug to isolate the electric ring on the top. So if you ever wanted to isolate that for any reason, that is how you would do so. A little bit more storage in the cupboard next to that, and probably a cutlery drawer. There you go. Now to the right of this, with the sink. Now I know that I've showed you just then about how to sort of pressurise the system, but there is something else you need to know. So a couple of things with these two cupboards. So these two cupboards are actually very, very important. Okay, so in the one on the left just here, we've got your gas isolators. So if you wanted to isolate the gas from any specific appliances, then you can do so just by turning those little valves. It does tell you what colour does what appliance, so you can pretty quickly work that out if you wanted to isolate an appliance. Now I would just say you do not need to do that every time you get out of the vehicle, and the only reason that they're there realistically is for us when we're doing sort of testing. If we've got a gas leak somewhere, then we can isolate the gas appliances one by one. So that's why they're there really. But if you're on holiday one time and you think, oh, I've got a bit of a gas leak from the boiler or whatever appliance it is, you can isolate the gas from there. All right, so that's why they're there. So that's that one. And then to the right, we've got the boiler cupboard. So first thing I will say is please do not put anything in here. Okay, this is not a storage locker. It does say there, do not block the gas dispersal holes, But it's more important than that. If you put something in here that's potentially like flammable, like if you put some paper in here or something, you're probably going to have a fire. So just please leave this entire locker absolutely as it is. Don't put anything in here. It needs all of this space in order to sort of breathe and work properly. So just thought I'd mention that. And then below that, below the actual boiler itself, we've got the boiler drain off point, which is this little yellow tab here. Okay, now basically the little yellow tab is laying down flat at the moment, which is its off position. So this is the position that you want the tab to be in if you want to use the boiler. If you want to drain the boiler out and winterize it, then you need to lift that tab upright so that it's facing the roof of the van, basically. And that will just drain every single bit of water out from the boiler and stop it from freezing up in the winter, is the idea behind that. Now, this is really important that you remember to do that in the winter, because this is a manual one. A lot of the newer vans have got automatic drain off points so that they physically will not allow themselves to freeze. But so it's really important that you drain this out before winter comes. Over summer, it's not a problem at all because it's not going to freeze up. But yeah, it's really important to make sure that you drain that boiler out before the winter comes around. So that is the boiler locker, and I will now show you how to actually use it. So the two dials that I mentioned on the right hand side, I'll just get down to it. These two dials just here. Now these are basically just the two dials to do with the boiler. There's nothing else to it. As long as you've got those two switches on the control panel, which I mentioned about, then you'll be able to use this boiler. So on the right hand side, you've got the one that says Truma C EH. So this is a Truma combi, hence Truma C. And EH, I'm not exactly sure what it sort of translates to, but I tend to sort of remember it as the energy selector. So this one on the right is literally just telling the boiler which energy to use. It's not telling the boiler what to do, it's just telling it how to do it. So at the moment, we are on gas only. Where that little knob is on the right hand side there, we're on gas only, okay? So the reason that I've got it on gas only is because I don't have the hookup plugged in, so I can't use it on mains anyway, so it has to be there. If I had the electric hookup plugged in and the gas on at the same time, I can use it on 1 or 2 mix. So that's a mixture of gas and either 4 or 8 amps of electricity. Okay, and that's when you're hooked up on the mains. If you have the hookup plugged in and you don't have the gas on, you can go up 1 or up 2 to use 4 or 8 amps of electric with no gas. Okay, so you've got options of using it on gas or electric or both at the same time. For the time being, I've only got the gas on, so I have to have it back here. The dial on the left is completely different because that's the one that actually tells the boiler what to do. Okay, so you select what energy you want to use it on, and then you look at this left-hand one here. Now, basically, if you want the heating only, we don't want any hot water, we just want heating. We go down once, and our heating will spring to life, and after about 5 minutes, you'll have hot air coming out. If I go down twice, we've got heating and hot water at the same time. Okay, so this is when we're at sort of winter setting. You want both heating and hot water. Back to the middle, turns the boiler off completely. If I go up once or up twice, that is our hot water only functions, and that's either at 40 or 60 degrees. Okay, so I'll just put this back down to heating only for a minute because it is quite a cold day today, to be fair. And we'll just sort of double check that that's all definitely working properly. Obviously, we have done a habitation check on the van anyway, but you know, there's a couple of little bits that we need to just sort of finish up. I'll make sure that little burner there is working as well, by the way. Right, so behind us, we have got the Thetford 3-way fridge. So the fridge itself is a very, very good size, okay? So you've got, this is what you call like a stack style fridge. This is a really good size fridge. Now on the actual fridge front itself, we have got the power, or the control panel, if you like, for the fridge. So to use this fridge, we turn the power switch on, like so. And you've got the option on here of the auto function. Now the auto function basically comes up with a little auto symbol here, as you can see, and it will select one of the 3 options for you automatically. Now that's great as long as it's working properly. Okay, so unfortunately some of these auto options on these fridges are a little bit naff and can get themselves a little bit confused sometimes and choose the wrong option. So I like to show you how to use it manually as well, rather than just saying, oh yeah, there you go, just leave it on auto, because, you know, 9 times out of 10 that'll work fine, but sometimes it won't. So when you press on this little left hand button here, press and hold, you can flick through the 3 different options. So you've got gas, we've got mains electric, auto, and 12 volt. So at the moment I can only use the fridge on gas anyway, so I'm going to leave it on gas. If we had the electric hookup cable plugged in, we would want to select the mains electric, which is this one here. Okay, because we haven't got the cable plugged in, we're getting a fault code and it's flashing at us, telling us that there's no power. If we have already pre-cooled the fridge and we've started the engine up in order to drive off and go, you know, to wherever we're going to go to, our next destination, then we can select the 12 volt option, which is our little battery symbol here. Okay, so they are the 3 options that you've got. Now, as I said, with the 12 volt electric, it's really important that you allow the fridge to cool down, or, you know, you get the fridge cold basically before you leave to go where you're going. The 12 volt option on the fridge, the little battery symbol, is not powerful enough to get the fridge cold by itself. So it's really important that you've actually pre-cooled the fridge before you get going. All that will happen if you don't pre-cool the fridge before you go and you select 12 volt for when you're driving, basically what will happen is when you get to where you're going, the fridge will just be a little bit warm inside still, and, you know, it won't feel much different. So the idea is, if you're going to go on holiday tomorrow morning, we tend to recommend, if you get the fridge cold the night before, that gives you the sort of the peak performance of the fridge, if you like. It allows you to really get the fridge completely cold and then just use the 12 volt just to keep the temperature going as you're driving. That's the sort of idea behind them. So to turn the fridge off completely, we press and hold on this button here again. And as long as that screen goes off, the fridge is completely off. So we have also got a microwave up just here. So this is a factory fitted one, I believe. And this is a mains powered appliance. So this will not work unless your electric hookup's plugged in. Much the same as the air conditioning unit that you have on the roof. So the aircon unit is this one just here. Now, as I said, this will not do anything at all unless you're hooked up on the mains. So if you're wondering why it's not doing anything one day, you just think, you know, it's probably because you're not hooked up. I have tested this myself and it works perfectly, so nothing wrong with the aircon unit whatsoever. I have also actually cleaned out the filters, so it's got some little sort of filters inside here. I've cleaned those out because they were a little bit grubby, so they've all been cleared out and working very well. On the actual controller itself, you'll notice when you open this little piece up just here, you've got all these little different symbols telling you what the icons mean. So on the actual screen, when you turn it on, you can flick through and change the different modes, and you can just have a little look on there, see what they all mean. Okay, so that's the air conditioning. It's really easy, to be honest, how to use that. And then the last thing to show you is going to be the bathroom. So in the actual bathroom itself, you've got, on the right hand side, you've got your separate shower unit here. All right, so nothing interesting about that really. You've got the hot and cold sink, or hot and cold tap, sorry for that, just there, and a couple of lights that will come on with a switch wherever that may be, just down here. Okay, hot and cold tap for the sink, again exactly the same, nothing interesting about that. And then we've got the toilet. So the toilet's normally the only part that I need to explain. Now basically you've got a blue button at the top of this little toilet here. When I press on the blue button, our pre-mixed pink flush fluid pumps around. And then to drain it out into the cassette, we pull on the little handle here towards us and drain it in. So now everything that goes into that is going to go straight into the cassette. like so. Now make sure that once you finish using the toilet, make sure that you push this flap back. If you don't push the flap back, then basically the toilet cassette is then locked in position. You won't be able to remove it from outside. But that is about it really. So just trying to look, see if there's anything else that I've missed out. Okay, so I don't think there's anything I've missed out. If there is, or if there's anything you're not quite sure on, anyone going over again at all, then just give us a shout. But otherwise, look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.